Slurp-de-derp, my G's. Well, hello there. It's the Rick Beato of the drum and bass world with a slightly, well, I should say majorly under-budgeted studio and less of a good camera. Yes, today we are doing another analysis video after the success of the last one. Had over 1,000 views from my nan. She's been really good at creating bot accounts for YouTube for us, so thanks again, Nan. And yeah. No, I did put out a little question, you know, what track should I analyse next? If you guys like this kind of feature, we can keep going. The only thing is, I don't monetize these videos because they're copyrighted with the music, so I'm kind of doing it for fun, for free. So if you wouldn't mind jumping over to Patreon, pledging a little $50 or something. Also, just grabbing some presets off my website, booking in for some mentorship sessions. That would be much appreciated. But anyway, let's get into today's analysis video. And we are going to be looking at In the City by Basstripper, which is a really cool track. And it was suggested by my student Dave Wilshire from the UK. Big ups to you, Wilberforce, my G. And let's get into the breakdown for In the City. Here we go. This first 16, where it's just the intro, it's quite simple. I just threw the cucumber away there, but that main synth sound, dum dum, is actually made from hitting your keyboard with a cucumber. Like literally, that's how you do it. Nah, it's a very simple one-shot synth kind of chord. Essentially, that's nothing to really talk too much about because it's quite a simple melody. But you've also got in the background, you've got some hats. A nice little hat rhythm that's quite natural, quite organic. It sounds like a live drumming kind of played hat. With a little open hi-hat that comes in. Quite nice and reverbed as well. And then we've got these little white noisy kind of sweeps. And then one thing you'll notice, how the tension is built. There's a low bassy kind of pad. It comes in like the volume kind of increases over time as you go through the section. And that's sort of one of the main ways that the tension is, you know, the rising tension begins. Okay, so quite simple first 16, but yeah, the main key point is like you're starting the process of from 0 to 16. Building up volumes in things, you know? So starting low and coming very, very slowly higher on a couple of the elements. As we go over to the next 16, what you're going to hear is the introduction of two new elements. And one is this ARP, which is quite a fast one. And one is the lead vocal that's sort of the signature part of the track. Both of these are going to filter up in terms of their brightness. So the full brightness is not on, because not only does an increasing volume add tension, but also an increasing sense of brightness will also add tension to your build up. So if you intentionally leave a bit of brightness off on a filter or an EQ and bring it back in throughout the course of the build up, that's going to give you a nice increasing amplitude, not amplitude, but yeah, increased sense of urgency, you know? So that's really important. So that's going to happen on the vocal as it's low pass and coming up, and on the ARP. And this ARP, not something that's super difficult to create. You could do something like this in Vital even. I'd like to challenge you guys to make something like that. But, you know, this is simple wavetable shapes can make that sound, obviously. And then you just got to program in the kind of melody, you know, and it's quite fast, but you can use some LFO trickery to get something like that yourself. No problemo. So pay attention to the increasing in brightness, and then also the risers will come in at the end to amplify that increase, you know. We've sort of got almost 2 or 3 risers. You had this little worm in the background. You've got this kind of white noise riser. And then you've got this other, just towards the drop, another sort of little tonal one with a bit of a harsher kind of tone to it coming in here as well. Quick little snare roll just before as well. I think I like to hear these kind of things. I don't hear it so much on like beginner students, these kind of nice natural organic snare rolls. I think that kind of thing is like a little bit easier to find a good sample that already has that natural real snare roll, you know, played by a drummer, because it's difficult to recreate that realistic snare kind of shuffle feeling by programming one shots, at least I think personally. So yeah, nice real recorded drum roll from a, you know, live kit, I think would be cool there. Then we're going to go into the next 16, which is like the main, like just before the drop kind of build up. And here you've got like an 808 bass that's gonna come in, and it's like it's kind of got a high end layer to it. So I visualize it as like a, you know, simple 808 doom 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 kind of low sine wavy bass with also a high end texture layered on top of it, you know. In the area, call me in the city, call me 63rd. It's the brothers on the... Yes, it's almost got a little bit of a kick to the start of it as well. Then there's a bunch of other elements as well. So the ARP, which was once quite synthy and bright, now sounds a lot more textural, a lot more convoluted, maybe an octave lower, and it's become more in the middle ground. So it's not this sort of bright synthy ARP anymore, but it's a new kind of version of an ARP, which is more in the background and is more focused on a low octave range and it's more textural rather than tonal, you know. So it's been changed quite a lot. And then also we got these new sirens coming in, these like kind of Foley sirens, and I love using Foley sounds that literally convey the emotion that you want to have in that sort of part of the track, you know. So a bit of urgency, a bit of tension, you know, why not use a siren, because that's exactly what that sound provokes in the human ear, you know. So I love to use like Free Sound to get these kind of Foley samples, my favorite website. But you know, you can be really creative with what Foley sound you use to convey which emotion, and you can be quite literal about it. Like for example, I've often done like, I've thought, how can I get the biggest response and impact on a drop? Why not use a stadium of crowd cheering or something like that, you know. So you can be quite literal with Foley sounds that you use in your track to further help to enhance the exact mood and feeling that you want for that section, you know. So that's exactly what Siren does there with the tension, you know. Okay, so you've got the building up of the elements coming, you know, in full force here, with the drums coming in hot and quick with a new kick roll that's coming in, and then the vocal as well is really, really present here, and you know that's going to continue over into the drop. But there's one thing that hasn't been introduced yet, and that's the main kind of like one of the main key signature mid basses. And if you pay attention in this section, they'll start to creep it in the background a little bit, kind of like a ninja, like in the forest, you know. You'll hear a little bit of the introduction of like the main bass that's to come, because often if you don't introduce it a little bit in the background before the drop, it's going to sound too weird and different to have a whole new bass sound on the drop that you haven't really been teased with before. So that pay attention in the background, you'll hear like a new bass tone coming in. Okay, so obviously there's a lot that happens just before the actual drop, as the kind of drums and crescendo and everything comes up to its sort of climax, and we sort of cut off sharply, and we've got the kind of classic Reese that comes in, you know. And this is like a Reese I sort of made the other day. It's like a classic Reese is not spectacular in its sound design specifically. It's just used in the right way and at the right time with a nice melody on it, you know. Just detuned sine waves, low pass, take out a bit of that high end, maybe a bit of distortion and reverb, and just a nice little melody that fits the kind of vibe of your track in that section. Natural Reese movement from the detuning of the saw waves, you know. And I think there's a vocal layered on top of it, if I'm not misinformed. Yeah, so you've got the vocal on top. Obviously, the register of the vocal is quite high. It's like so it's not really going to conflict with the Reese because the Reese is a very low one. And then you've got this kind of background atmosphere as well, right? You've got this nice background. The Reese is kind of doing the main part of that section, the vocal kind of on top of it, and then in the background a little atmospheric riser, you know. But the Reese is kind of carrying it all through. That's the sort of spotlight element, I suppose, still. As we hit the drop, we're going to get this really lovely, maybe my favourite sound in the track, bass stab, like a one shot that happens on the one, you know, with the kick. And that's a sound that's going to take a little bit of extra magic to design. But if you pay attention to the shape of it first... Boom, boom. It's a simple down and up, you know. So to program that kind of bass in a synth, it would be as simple as getting an LFO that goes down and up, and then just programming all your parameters to go along with that rhythm, you know. And so the key thing to make a bass like that is to book in a one-on-one session with Artifact. Say, how do I make this bass in Vital? No, what you want to do is you want to keep the low end bass intact, like the kind of sine wave or lower parts of the bass, like very, very powerful still. But then you also want to blend in this nice organic but kind of dark texture on top of it, you know. So you're kind of merging these two characteristics to the sound together, shaping them through that same LFO movement so that they're really coherent. And it's something that might be better achieved with definitely like a good use of some FM as well, but also I think perhaps with a sample or with some granular synthesis, you know, run into the sine wave, or yeah, it's a little bit more of a sound design experiment than just, you know, the classic, you know, sine waves or saw waves. Perhaps, you know, it's something that's it's a lot more focused on the texture, but you've got to keep that bass power in there as well, and maintain the stereo image as well, because it's a very, very powerful bass stab. Not something that's it's something that's going to be difficult to exactly replicate because you don't know where the source kind of sound comes from, but it's not something that's too impossible to do if you just pay attention to that main shape, you know. Keep the bass power in it within your sine waves or things like that you use in the synth, and then just try to find a way to blend in like a cool, gritty, organic texture into the whole sound, which is still nice and dark but has got some life to it, to recreate that nice one shot there. And I really like that. And let's talk about the other kind of response bass after that then. We don't need to talk a lot about the drums in this section because they're quite sparse. I guess kick, hi-hat, snare obviously, but you know, just nice samples, always high quality, nice samples, well mixed. We all know that. But we're going to talk about the interesting parts of the track, like that pitch down kind of bass that you've got. So obviously, if you were trying to design that, you know, well, the main part of it is the way that it's pitched, you know. So I would start with, you know, drawing a pitch down LFO kind of envelope on my oscillators, having that kind of coming down, and then start designing the patch around that with that pitch movement already in there. And for me, although this is a really, really cool sound, I probably would struggle to create it exactly. I think it's a sound that can be similarly replicated fairly easily with a good use of sine waves and distortion. I think it would be that simple. A nice combination of sine waves that are, and paying attention to the exact pitch on them all, being quite creative with how the pitch of the sine waves moves, perhaps how they automate in their volume as well, and running them all through a lot of distortion, I think will generate a similar kind of tone. I could be wrong, that might not be how it's made, but if I was trying to make that sound, I'd be playing with my sine waves, playing with the pitch on them, playing with smashing them through some hard distortion to generate that tone, playing with a bit of FM between the sine waves, and a little bit of stereo automation as well. I think it's quite a sort of dry, sort of response-based sound, you know, or mid-bass lead kind of thing. It doesn't seem like it's got loads of like special like crazy layers or crazy amounts of reverb on it. It feels quite dry and in the middle, but I feel like there's a bit of stereo movement within the design of the sound that is what keeps it interesting, while it sort of stays a little bit dry and not super like reverbed. I think the interest there's still a lot of interest in the stereo aspect to the sound, but I believe that's been programmed in the synth, so it's got a bit of a stereo movement in that kind of main design from the beginning. That's what I think. That's how it sounds to me anyway. But yeah, it's nice, a really nice patch, and yeah, you'll hear this later. Right now the main hook is kind of pitching down, but later it'll be like a pitched up version. It'll just be redesigned and reprogrammed, perhaps in the MIDI or whatever to keep it interesting later. But that's the kind of signature response based sound that we've got here. And then when we talk about the vocal, there's one really cool kind of effect where the vocal sort of scatters in with a nice delay, nice creative kind of delay that kind of just like breaks the vocal apart. That's something you could probably achieve with a number of different creative processing effects. But if you don't have the exact effect to do that, you could just use reverbs and delays and really like mangle the sound, and then like bounce it to audio. Blend that in as a different kind of layer on your track. That's something that I'd probably do. I'd really mangle it and then use it on a new layer and then like blend it with the original, that kind of thing. But the main thing about the vocal that makes it unique is just how it's been chopped and how it fits in between the rest of the basses and sounds in the arrangement, how they sort of just chop it off like a little bit before like the kick or wherever. It's just how and where it's been chopped in the arrangement that keeps it really interesting to me. Just chopping it off just before that really nice one-shot bass comes in. I love that. Yeah, they kind of teased me there on that last one, didn't they? You got the you got this sine wave, sort of jungly sine wave that comes in towards the end as a sort of bass fill, and that's pitching right up and down the keyboard, and that's just a simple detuned sine wave. You could just do two sine waves, detune them, and then as you play up the keyboard, the higher note will lead to a faster detuning, and you play a nice melody up and down your keyboard, and hey presto, you've got like a cool wobbling sine wave that gets faster and then slows down again, how it goes, as it goes up, it goes faster. As it goes down, two sine waves detuned, that'll do it pretty much, So nothing like, again, like kind of with the Reese, that's like a classic D&B sound that always just sounds great in D&B tracks, and you can always pull it out as a like new sound in your track if you need one, As we go into our second 16, the two main things that you'll notice that change are the drums and that kind of response, main response mid bass, lead bass, bass lead, bass lead, mid thing. So the really fast new drum loop that comes in, really, really nice and organic, really bright and present, kind of like the main focus point again here. And at the same time as you've got that, our sort of main lead from before has now been like really convoluted and placed more in the middle ground, kind of like what you had on the build-up with the ARP. When in the intro the ARP was like really upfront and synthy and in your face, and then for the next part it became like more textural and more atonal, like really convoluted a lot. And when I say convoluted, I'd mean not necessarily convolution reverb, but convolution in the sense of taking the sound from where it once was, running it through some stuff to create a different version of it. And it's a version which is definitely less tonal, a lot more textural. Yeah? So it's got the same kind of rhythm and pitch on it, but the kind of tone of it has been changed so much where it becomes more of a textural element and less of a pitched element, So that's the main change, that response bass becomes this kind of mid-range, middle ground thing that's less in your face, and the drums have an uplifting new loop that comes in. But overall, you're kind of taking it out a bit of energy in this section, you know. Yeah, we're still getting to it again. Hang on. So that's the main, the two main sort of changes, and the vocal again is chopped slightly more aggressively. So you're taking a bit more away from the vocal again here. And halfway through this 16, it breaks itself halfway through, and it becomes a build up again. You know, so it's a sort of half 16 of this new vibe, and then we go straight back into a build up. And similar kind of build up to before the drop, you know, increasing tension with kicks, rises coming in as we get prepared for the second kind of round of our main kind of drop here, you know. You kind of, with the build up, you kind of go down and then up, because you were kind of going full speed with the new drum shuffles and the new version of the response bass. And then so halfway through, the new build up starts, you kind of sweep down with a little riser to bring it down a bit before then you come back up again. So it kind of goes down and then back up with the kicks coming back in to really like amp up the speed and tension here again just before we kick off with the next variation. Again, the Reese kind of used as that key kind of hook point just before the impact again. So again here, you've got similar kind of arrangement with the main, you know, really cool stab on the downbeat, sort of unchanged essentially. It might have a slight variation, but not so much. But the main variation is going to be the response, main response bass. We now got a new hook to it. So it's sort of going up this time rather than pitching down. We're sort of pitching it up. And also the vocal has changed again because the chopping of the vocal is more dramatic as well. So two elements again, two main things that change at the same time. So often if you focus on having two of your main elements have a good amount of variation on both of them, then that's going to be enough to really give you that sense that it's a new section and that it's really new and interesting again. Yeah. So if you try and do that on two things always, then that's usually going to serve you quite well. So let's continue here. Yeah, so really cool how the new version of the pitched response kind of goes up and then goes down. So it's a new kind of flavor in the melodic design of it, but it's, you know, similar kind of same kind of patch, same kind of sound design, just played differently and perhaps with some little extra difference in the movement as well. But as that kind of goes on, as we get towards the end of the track, because it's quite a short track, you'll notice here the ARP comes in the background already. So that's sort of coming in a bit earlier than. Well, I don't think it was really in on the first drop. I can't quite remember, but it's sort of like the ARP that was in the intro. It's coming back in towards the end as we sort of start to signify the finishing of the track, you know. The ARP is coming up to help bring us towards the end of the track. And the way it continues over, you know, because it's come in quite hot, you really, really hear it. And it just continues into the next 16 while a lot of the other elements cut away. So the other drums cut away, the bass kind of cuts away, but you don't really feel that they're sort of missing so much because you're sort of focused on this ARP. So it's used as a tool to like tie over the next section, you know. So that's one thing that I always like to do to tie over my 16 bar sections, especially if you're going into a breakdown, is to sort of bring something in and like get the listener to like focus on that and then keep that going over into the next transition, the next 16, while all the other stuff in the background kind of just stops, but your ear is focused on that new thing that's like sort of taking you over, you know, like a flying monkey in the desert that sort of comes in with like a super like cape or something, and you're just like, whoa, who's this monkey with a cape? And then you like jump on him and he's like flying you like into the sky, and you realise you've left like all your mates behind, you know, that kind of effect, you know. So similar elements to what we had in the intro, but now it's just the reverse effect where, you know, we've got that brightness on them. That as we went into the breakdown, you know, the arp is still quite bright, the vocal is still quite bright, but now we're just taking the brightness off slowly. So nice and polished, finished by sort of slowly low passing stuff again. The exact opposite of what happened in the intro. So you've got this sort of triangle effect of like, you know, more low passed and then brightness coming up for the intro, and same for the outro, a lot of brightness and then low, kind of being low passed again to bring it to a close, you know. So nice and polished way to start and finish your tracks, you know. Yeah, nice and quick track there, you know. But I think this is something that yeah, something that I think is you know, something to take away from that is, you know, unless you could get a really great 16 bar kind of block structure where every 16 is really great, everything's doing like everything fits well together. You've got really interesting sounds. You've got really nice variations. You're playing with the elements differently in different sections. You're convoluting them here to make them a new version. You're bringing them back to give the kind of main lead, you know, taking it out and then bringing it back in with a new kind of hook. You're playing with your drums. You've got like a whole section where you're focusing on the drums with a new fast loop. Then you're stripping that back again. Unless you're doing all this nice variation in every single 16, you know, you know, it's difficult to get that just for 2.5 minutes, you know. So it's better to focus on that, you know, real nice sound design and real nice structure and transitions for a shorter period and a shorter track, and do that really, really well, than to compose like a 5 or 6 minute long track where the variations just aren't that spectacular, you know. Here the variations are like really, really impressive and just, you know, great from start to finish, and that's a lot more interesting and has a lot more replay value, even if it's a lot shorter, because it's just a real pleasure from the beginning to end. So I would advocate that, you know, try to focus more on getting getting that really nice sound design, getting some really nice variations in your lead elements, you know, playing with bringing them in, bringing them out, and doing that, you know, really focusing on that for just a few minutes rather than just going for like repetitive sections which aren't so different from one another, you know. So I really like this track. Thanks a lot, Dave Wilshire, for recommending that one. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as I mentioned at the beginning, it's not a monetized video or anything, so if you like it, if you want to support on Patreon, just a couple of quid or something here or there, help pay for my heating bill, whatever. More than welcome to join there. We've got some free downloads and stuff on Patreon. We've got a wicked Discord community that's a little bit more expensive to join, but if you do join that, I run all my group classes through that. We have feedback streams. We're doing one this Friday as well, and we're just really positive, motivated, chatting to each other all the time, giving feedback, that kind of stuff. So it's a wicked place to join if you want to advance your sound within a very supportive community which really takes care of each other. And so all of you guys on Discord who are watching, can't thank you enough for providing such an excellent community for everyone. So you guys just keep me going and keep me being able to do what I love. So thank you a lot for that. And mentorship sessions always available on my website. You can book in directly. You don't have to ask. You can literally just book in, and I'll be there on the other side of Zoom to help you out on whatever current issue you're tackling in your mixdown, sound design, synthesis, whatever it is. I'll do my best to help you out, meet you where you're at on any software, and help you progress. I've had students sign to Hospital Records, to RAM Records after they've had sessions with me. So the results speak for themselves, but I love teaching, so that's why I'd like to continue to promote that service. Preset packs as well. New Vital Terminal pack. Got some good reviews on that one, definitely. That's on the website, along with phase plant packs and things like that as well. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching today, and leave a comment down below if you want me to continue with some analysis videos and which track we should do next. Thanks a lot for watching, my G's. Have a great day. Peace out.